Here's how I went from making $55,000 a year to $168,000 a year through a series of strategic job hops. My name is Fumi and I'm your career bestie, and you know we love salary transparency over here. So back when I was 22, fresh out of college, I landed my first job as a research analyst at a healthcare marketing firm, earning $55,000 a year. I felt optimistic, it matched my degree, and I believed I was on the right track. But after a few months, there just wasn't enough work and I got laid off. And that really sucked, after, just graduating college. So at 23, I decided to take a job as a medical secretary at a hospital for a brief stint. I was making about 40K at that time. And then I decided to go and work for my parents' business. They were going to match my salary. It really wasn't my dream job, of course. I definitely didn't want to be working with my parents, but it kept me afloat. And then my next big jump came at 24 when I moved over to an industrial supply company that paid me $78,000 a year. So that was a huge jump. It was an improvement financially, but the culture sucked. The culture was draining over there. So by 25, I decided to leave New Jersey to start a master's program in computer science at the University of Chicago. And I was thinking that advanced education might open new doors for me. So while I was in Chicago at 25, grad school was pretty exciting, but part-time work at the university only paid me about 30,000. So between tuition and living expenses, it was pretty tough. I eventually decided to take a break from my master's, and by the time I was 26, I switched into following my passion, wedding planning, which is basically paying me no money. And some might say it was a leap from left field, but I really wanted to explore my creative side. So I juggled my wedding planning internship while still making roughly 30K at the university. But by 27, I had to move back to my parents' house in Jersey. I racked up around $35,000 in credit card debt, so I needed to work that off. I was able to get a job again working for my mom, and I was making 47.5, and I was also trying to get my wedding planning business off the ground. By the time I was 28, the wedding planning side hustle picked up enough that I could bring in about 80K combined. And the best part is that I finally paid off my $35,000 in credit card debt that had been weighing on me, but that's another story. Shortly after, I moved to New York City. By 29, I landed my first executive assistant role at a Series B startup, making $75,000 a year. It felt like a fresh start and definitely a step away from wedding planning, but it matched a lot of my organizational strengths. At 30, I hopped to another Series B startup offering me $92,500. That was purely an executive assistant role. And around that time, I also decided to close my wedding planning business, which turned out to be the perfect timing because it was just before COVID when the wedding planning industry was decimated. At 31, I joined this popular music tech startup and they were paying me $150,000 and I was supporting the CEO and president. 6 months later, the company was acquired, so I had to pivot again. I shifted to a fully remote health tech company by the time I was 32 with a salary of $145,000 a year. I loved my job, and within a year, I got bumped to $160,000. And in my second year, I got bumped to $168,000. So now at 35, in addition to that full-time income of $168,000 a year, I do earn an extra $8,000 to $10,000 a month through additional side projects, which is amazing. So sometimes I look back at that 22-year-old me who was so proud of that $55,000 job, and I'm really truly grateful for every detour, even when it meant pushing pause on grad school or hustling with my family. Each switch really taught me something about negotiation, resilience, and knowing my worth. But I'm curious, what were you guys earning when you were 22 and where are you at now? Drop it in the comments.